Hello, welcome to Clea's World. I am Clea Annecchiarico, and I have a really good friend of mine today that I would like to introduce to you because I think she is definitely a face of sovereignty. And as you know, this is a concept that's very high up on my list. It's a priority. I think it's becoming more of a priority for many people, especially after what we've gone through over the past years. We realized we cannot really depend on these systems, because even though the narrative is that these systems have been set up for us, they really haven't, and they've worked against us. I think it's pretty obvious to a lot of people these days. And because of that, I've been searching for people who have taken life back into their hands in some ways. Not everybody's perfect. Some of us, like myself, are still relying on supermarkets and banks, that kind of thing. But it's not about perfection. It's about getting started on a path of resilience and autonomy and sovereignty. So I want to introduce you to my friend Melissa Turnock. I will link. She's a great lady. She has a YouTube channel, super interesting. Hopefully she'll tell us a little bit about it soon. And I will make sure to link all her stuff in the description box. So make sure you check that out, because I definitely learn a lot from her. And also, please, before we get started, like and share this video if you like it. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already done so. And please leave us a comment, because we would love to hear if this resonates with you. Without further ado, here's Melissa. Hello, Mel. What an honor to have you.
Oh, good morning. Well, it's morning here. Hello, my love. It's always nice to hang out with you. It's almost like we solve the world's problems together, you and I. We're just waiting for everyone else to catch up.
And that's all right. Somebody's got to do it, you know. But yeah, she's saying this morning, what I did say is that Melissa is in Australia. So if you have kept an eye on what's been happening in Australia, you'll realize why she's such a good choice for this type of topic, because they've been very much left stranded by the authorities that they thought they could count on. So please start wherever you want. If you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, that would be great.
It's funny about just on the Australia piece. We used to have this attitude that we were a long way away from the rest of the world. We were a lovely little island enclave. We didn't get the influence of the negativity of the rest of the world. And now it's turned against us. So it's yet another example of that. Everything's been inverted, you know. So it's still possible to live in Australia and have faith in yourself and stick to your guns. There is a very strong sentiment in this country, as there is in a lot of countries, that we should hand the responsibility for our health over to those that know better. And for me, what started to happen, and it was almost immediate, a couple of years ago, something felt off about the speed with which everything was changing and the fear. And when you can see people are living from a place of fear, they're not able to make logical decisions. It's like a different part of their brain has taken over. And I've wondered, what is the difference between people like us who are able to almost take a step back from the craziness of the world and trust ourselves way more than what the bigger narrative is. And I'd love to know, I always ask people that question that are like-minded, what do you think the difference is? And I know for me, it's been building a relationship with my body. And body sovereignty doesn't just suddenly happen because you find out, you know, Big Pharma has done X, Y, and Z. Body sovereignty is a journey that you go on. And it's like there are landmark moments in your life where the universe is giving you an opportunity to start to pay more attention to your inner experience, which is your connection to source. And you know, I watch all your videos and what you're bringing through. Our physical body is all we have got, Clea, to connect to the multiverse, to provide on earth what we came here to do. We all signed up for a mission. And what breaks my heart the most is watching how many people have absolved themselves of responsibility for their own health. And I'm not just talking about the last 2 years, I'm talking about as a general pattern, because we are masterfully taught from the beginning, someone else knows better about what is good for you. And we willingly trust that because we are of the pack mentality. And I think what's happening is a whole lot of people are going to go through their whole life still trusting and doing as they're told. But what's happening now is there's all of these people that have been catalyzed into action because they have a relationship with their body. They can feel, when I'm not feeling okay about something, when I'm not in alignment, that is a signal for them to pay attention. And I'll add this piece. What has happened is people's nervous system have become so hypervigilant in stressful states. And you probably know people like this. It's like they talk really fast and they don't really listen to what you're saying. And you can just tell that they're on edge, right? The deer in the headlights thing. I think there's a big chunk of the population that are in that state, and they are the ones that are easily controllable. And then there are even more people that have numbed out and switched off because it's too freaking painful to pay attention to what is actually going on. And that is a really tricky state to be in. And I know that was me for many years. Professionally, personally, functionally numb. Doing all the job. I had a career. I was a speech pathologist. I ran a speech pathology department. I had a marriage. I had a child. All of the things that society says you will do, but dead on the inside. Mm. And it takes a big, big catalyst in your life, doesn't it? To actually pay attention to your body. And some people still don't get it. I've known so many women who had breast cancer like I did that just got their treatment over with, put their wig in the bin and went home and turned on the vacuum cleaner and pretended like it never happened. That is ignoring God's words that come through your body, which say you need to be present to what's going on within you. Or why would your body have proliferated cancer? And cancer is one of many forms of disease states where our body is trying to communicate with us through illness. That's something like there's a frequency off, or there is harm. You're causing harm to yourself through what you're eating or thinking or doing or hanging out with. So I bless this body every day. I have developed what I think is an essential piece is reverence for and self-love. And we've talked about this before, and I make videos about this on my channel. The only reason we can abdicate our responsibility for our health and our decisions about our health to others is because we haven't tapped into absolute reverence for this body and taking self-responsibility. That's the big thing, isn't it? What happened, Clea? What happened to the masses? That the spell was so strong that they stopped listening to their body, and many of them have never been able to listen to their body. And that's my mantra. That's what I do, whether it's with menopausal women or it's with people spiritually awakening. It's like, let's inhabit our body's inner experience, because that is our intel. That is our conduit between the abundance. And I always look out the window because there's open land there when I talk about this. The abundance, the strength and the power of Mama Earth. We are meant to receive that up through our body. We are meant to be in nature to attune to that frequency. And then there's the rest, there's the multidimensionality, there's all the dimensions that you speak of. We have access to both in our multidimensionality, in our human form. And if you don't pay attention to your inner experience of the world and work on this inner landscape, you cut yourself off from those two. You live in here, and that's a dangerous place to stay. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely. I will make a comment about what you said, because it's quite interesting how we cut ourselves off. we will find any way to cut ourselves off. If we become spiritual, then it's because we don't want to deal with the body because it's too lowly. If we are not spiritual, it's because we're busy going to work, raising a family, doing all the things, because we are people of doing, not people of being. We never stop and be. We always have to do or to have. So whatever, no matter where you stand in this world, chances are you cut off your body. It's like, what is this thing? We never stop to say, hey, without this thing, you know, we don't have anything. We can't do anything. We can't even be spiritual. We cannot even go to work or do whatever. There really is a lot of disrespect for our bodies. That's why we think that we can just go to a random person who's wearing a white coat. We don't know anything about this person except that he's wearing a white coat. We might even find him, you know, in the white page as it used to be, and it's just a name, but it has a title next to the name, and therefore we're like, here, let me empower you with decisions of life and death over me. We think nothing of it, do we? Now, it takes a lot of programming, obviously, to end up in this space, but what I really like about what you've been putting out, and you've always put out stuff that uses the body because as leverage to actually connect to ourselves or our truths and become more of who we're always meant to be, is that I don't see a lot of people talk about that. And I don't see people who focus on the body and how to make it healthier talk about the spiritual stuff, because the point is, you cannot separate us. We are not puzzles. It's like, oh, I can be over here or I can be over here. We are whole beings. And until you take care of your entirety, you're not going to get anywhere. So I really like that you're focusing. In fact, I will definitely link this. I know you have the Earth Bootcamp coming up, which I highly recommend. I actually checked out, as you know, your content, and I think it's outstanding and it's definitely very much needed, which is one of the reasons I wanted to have you here, because at least that gives an opportunity to people to join it if they want to. I think it's incredible, the content you're putting out. But yeah, tell us a little bit more. What brought you here? You said you were a speech pathologist. How do you go from there to here? What's going on?
Well, I stepped into speech pathology as my first career, and I can see why each thing happened to me to get to me to where I am now. I grew up silencing my voice. It wasn't listened to. So at a very young age, we learn the room. We can read the room, as you say, if we're a sensitive soul, and we respond accordingly to create safety in our own life. So my childhood experience was not one of deprivation of physical stuff, but rather emotional neglect is probably the closest I can call it. So then it's like, intuitively we get led on this series of steps, which is bringing us home to ourselves. So guess what? If I had a childhood where it didn't feel like anybody cared what I thought, and so therefore I repressed and silenced myself, what career do you think the universe is going to lead me into? I wanted to be a physiotherapist, and I missed out by 5 marks, and I got into speech pathology. Communication, using your voice. So you can see how you get led and guided if you listen. And I did that for 10 years. And that was about brain injury rehab, little kids as well, strokes, all of those sorts of things. And that cycle was about 10 years. And then I got to a point where I literally was burning out. I was hiding in my office so that no one would come and talk to me, because that's a very energy sapping environment. And as a young sort of 20, early 30s woman, I didn't have the awareness of cultivating and resourcing myself sufficiently in order to be in that kind of environment and still stay with my cup full. So we get to burnout, end of story. And then I got led on the body path, and that was Pilates. I had a really bad back. So from my early speech pathology days, I started to get a sore back sitting on little kindy chairs with kids, and I was 27 or something. So I have a scoliosis in my spine. So from the very beginning, there was this communication line my body was trying to make with me. And I had not an asymptomatic scoliosis like many people have, but a very uncomfortable one where my ex-husband used to have to help me put my legs up the wall when I'd get out of bed in the morning to stretch the back of my legs to ease the pain. Now, that is what I'm talking about. Our body is trying to communicate through pain and tension and get our attention. And I went on the, physio, osteo, rheumatologist. I went on the whole journey. I knew I didn't need surgery because I found Pilates. And of course, the universe, when you ask, the universe returns in kind. I needed something to manage the pain. Fell in love with Pilates. It took my back pain away. I didn't need to go and see a practitioner anymore. Became an evangelist, absolute devotee to good quality Pilates. I'm talking about a Pilates instructor that knows anatomy and physiology and is able to specifically advise movement patterns that are safe for you versus those that are contraindicated and look like you're in a gym copying someone on a stage. And I went down that route. And again, it was about relationships with people. It was about one-to-one time. I am an Aquarian with an absolute connection to community. If you look at my natal chart, it's all about building community and being a leader in community. So little by little, I was finding myself in roles that were either nourishing or not. I worked in corporate for about 2 years and I felt myself withering and dying on the inside. So the universe was saying, no, this is not your environment. And then came motherhood and the joys of a marriage. And that's when I started to feel the role of the body. I remember being pregnant with my son, Alec, and thinking, this is a parasitic relationship. This fetus inside me is leeching me to grow. And that's perfect. That's nature. But how do I then nourish myself to be with that? And that was when I really started to pay attention to what our human body is capable of, which is unbelievable. Have you thought about that when you had your child growing in your body? Like, we just get out of the way of Mother Nature and our physical body. This is miraculous.
Yep.
So that was a beautiful lesson in it. And then the real clanger came, which was breast cancer at 40, which is pretty young. I don't know if that's the case in your country, but 12 years ago, it was not super common for women under 50-ish to get breast cancer. And as far as I'm concerned, Clea, that was an alarm bell. And I know you've had your experience with that. Why would my body proliferate cancer and try to kill me? And I started asking those questions internally, because our body is here on earth to be the tool, to be in service, to thrive. Anyone that sat in meditation for more than 4 days will know we have this place within us that is sacred, that is embodying God's work. And if the word God triggers you, put another word in there, bringing that down through our body. So why would I be told I have cancer and this could kill me? It's like, that's not what I came here to do. So I really started to pay attention to that. And I'd been meditating for years. In fact, quite ruthless meditation was my style. I was in a cult, which taught you that 20 minutes morning, 20 minutes night, always wear a dress, don't wear trousers. Women serve the men food. And that was a very interesting sort of intro to the spiritual world. But it was, again, handing the responsibility for my spirituality over to the people running this school. 14 years I stayed.
Oh my goodness. But like you said, it's an intro, because, as we say, all roads lead to Rome. As long as it was a stepping stone for you, there was a greater purpose behind it. And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, because I know you were trying to make a point. I just wanted to make sure that that's clear, that there are no mistakes.
No. Everything is gifting you an opportunity to come to get closer to what is really your essence. You use the word essence. So the wheels started to fall off that school when we found out that what the leaders of that school were telling us had come from a teacher in India hadn't actually come from the teacher in India. And that rocked my world, because I had literally handed the responsibility for my spirituality over to another group of people quite innocently. We do this, right? We do this from a good place.
Yeah.
We follow medical procedures from a good place. There is an intention, always an intention behind our actions. We need to learn the difference with, is my intention coming from love or fear? And when the wheels started to fall off in this school, I panicked, and it felt like my world had been ripped away, because I had literally believed everything I'd been told. So then it was like the universe saying, hey, we hand back your sovereignty for your spiritual growth back to you. You go on this journey. And that's when my clairvoyance went nuts. That's when I would sit on my balcony to my left with my little altar at 4:30 in the morning and see these visions that were nothing short of, I got goosebumps running up my shins, which is my sign of excitement, nothing short of archetypal, incredible, like blow your mind stuff. And I had no one to tell. This was years ago. And it was like, I can't tell my husband because he already thinks I'm super woo. I had to find my people, and I've really only found my people in the last couple of years. And everyone listening to this, you know what I mean. It's like, it takes us a while to find our people. But breast cancer was a physical journey I had to go on. Because of the meditation experience, I was able to become a witness to the poisoning of my body, become a witness to the 10 days to 2 weeks in bed that I had after my treatment. I think when we're very sensitive, Clea, and we undergo some form of medical treatment, it impacts our physical body to a very intense degree. Whereas I was watching other women getting chemotherapy and going to work, and I was literally out for the count. My chemo was no stronger than hers, but my system had a very different frequency, and it was rendered useless by these poisons, which a woman injects into you wearing a protective mask, gloves, and blue protective clothing.
There is so much contradictory stuff going on that if you just start asking questions, it all comes crumbling down, because then you can't believe anything anymore. For me, one of the big ones is always like, and you know this, you've heard me say it, why are we paying to be on this planet? This planet is free. You don't get to be born on a planet. You have to pay to be there. And this is crazy. It's like we're renting a space from who?
Yeah.
It's our
the landlord.
It's such a ridiculous tenet that we hold true, that many watching this might even say, well, no, and not because we, these are not, all of us are intelligent people, right? We are informing ourselves, we're researching, but some things are so programmed into us that until you really sit and think about it, you don't realize, like you were saying, there's goodwill. We make mistakes in goodwill. Yeah. Now, luckily, the universe catches us. I meant to comment on what you said about cancer. It's like, my body's trying to kill me. And I know that's not what you believe now, but it's what you believed in the beginning. And absolutely same story here. I never was afraid that I was going to die. I knew it wasn't for me. Okay. So I was actually surprised. Like, why would I get this? And I just felt like the universe was beating down on me, because so many things were going on at that time. Yeah. So what it was, I realized it was my body trying to save me. I had so many poisonous thoughts and emotions running through my body that what my body did, it created a tumor and basically put them all in one spot, because it didn't want them circulating. That's how I think of it. And because my body really loves me, they put it in my kidney. So we chopped off one piece of it. I'm not saying it's nothing, but it could have been a lot worse. I didn't have to do any treatments, for example, and off I go. Now, it wasn't as simple, clearly, as I went through it. I wasn't like, la, 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 la. It takes a lot of growth. But it's interesting that you said we sometimes need to hit a wall. You use different words, but that was the purpose of what you were saying, is that we need to hit a wall really hard before we actually awaken to certain things. I just made a video, which I will release in the next few days, sometimes this week, where I actually talk about this, that I believe that is, we are being given in this dimension, so on this planet, only two choices. Either you ignore everything, or you hit a wall really hard and then you wake up. That's not how it was ever supposed to be. This is also part of our programming. And where does that come from? It's also the idea that you were mentioning when you talked about maternity, and you're like, you have this parasite growing. The fact that you are now a tool, a vehicle, and there's martyrdom involved. You have to sacrifice yourself. Basically, everything that is meant to hold you down and make you feel miserable is called a virtue. And because of that, of course, we get to a point in life where we grow up and we're like, wow, I'm only 40 years old and I am miserable. You know, we laugh about the midlife crisis, but it is no joke. No. You know who has it right? It's kids. Kids are like, why should I do this? And the truth is, we tell them, oh, why should I go to school? In fact, I don't know if you've ever seen these memes. They say, yeah, you should go to school so you can become a programmed, standardized human. And you know what? It might be funny, but isn't it the truth? Yeah. Beyond reading and writing, what are they teaching you in school? You would be much better off learning from life and in a good way. Instead, we've been taught that we always have to learn through pain. So I literally was talking about my dark night of the soul and how I finally got to the point where I'm like, well, I'm tired of learning through pain. It's almost like saying you got to spank a child for them to learn. You cannot tell them something nice, otherwise they won't get it. When you break it down like that, you realize how ridiculous it is. And yet all of us believe that you have to come to a bad situation like cancer. And again, it was the same for me. But why was it the same for me? Because I've ignored my needs I had already ignored my needs for 30 years. So guess what? Eventually, the universe will nudge you very gently, very subtly, and you don't listen, it'll nudge you harder. And eventually it needs to smack you in the forehead because you're just not listening. Yeah. So absolutely, exactly. I can relate with what you're saying because I see it. I've seen it in my whole life.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it's interesting what you say about the site of your cancer. Mine was in my left breast, and it was literally right near my heart. And very shortly after my treatment finished, and I started to fall into what, someone else would call depression, which was simply the aftershock coming through. I realized that in the life experience I'd shut my heart down because it was too painful to not receive the emotional connection I needed. And what our body does is it responds very cleverly to the environment that we're in. And it does what it needs to do to keep us alive. So you had to stay in survival mode and get all these things done in order to keep yourself feeling safe in lots of situations where you didn't feel safe. You didn't feel acknowledged. You didn't feel like someone had your back. So our nervous system goes into this process of making sure we feel safe, because remember, our body's trying to make us thrive all the time. So our nervous system acts in our favor. But unless we resolve the things that led us into that state, we will perpetually see the world through that lens. So your hitting the wall, my hitting the wall, was the catalyst for us to change and go, aha, something about the way I was treating myself led to disease, and therefore I am now listening and I will change it. And I love what you just said about I'm no longer prepared to learn through pain. And I can give you a perfect real life example of that. Right now in my life, I am 53. I am financially settling a 21-year marriage. I am packing up and selling the family home that I've lived in for 12 years. And I'm also running my own business, trying to get my message out into the world and launch this Earth Bootcamp, all at the same time. Now, they are big life events happening concurrently. And I started to feel this pain point of, this is overwhelming. This is really scary. I don't know if I can do this. I'm going to sit and go into my default nervous system state, which is numbness. And I'm going to dissociate from that feeling. And I'm going to watch 4 episodes of the new season of Ozark and open a bottle of wine. So that is a physical manifestation of disassociation, of us numbing out. Now, because I have worked with my nervous system so much, as soon as I started to notice that pattern, that program pattern of divorce is hard, selling your house is hard, real estate agents are going to screw you over, Don't forget, you got to pay thousands of dollars in lawyer fees. Oh my God, you need to earn more money so you can afford all of this. Soon as that bombardment of the energies of society telling me this started to be felt, I said no. I literally went on this little ceremony, and I'll probably have to do it many times in the next few months, where I told the universe, this is not hard. This is not going to become a pain point where I struggle through and I make it to the other end and I can make a YouTube video about it. It's like, I'm not fucking having this. This is a process of awakening and transformation. I am building sovereign relationships with 5 professional women who are stylists, real estate agents, lawyers, conveyancers, women in their own right who have taken on a role of service and support. It doesn't matter what their profession is. They are my support circle. I have a man who loves me, who lives across the water over there. I have an ex-husband and a son who spent all day Sunday helping me fill a skip where we put 21 years of our life into a big metal tin and left it behind and sat here and had lunch and toasted each other. This is not fucking happening. I am not letting these life experiences take me under. And I just get emotional talking about it because people allow this to happen to themselves unknowingly. And it is all choice. But if you can't feel inside yourself the stranglehold that society has on you, making you think that this is hard, making you think that you have to take this medical procedure, then you will comply and you will be miserable and you will resent. And then everyone in your inner circle has to suffer. We don't have to live like this. This is fucking meant to be fun. Like my friend Clea says, what happened to the fun? Yeah. What happened to the love and the joy? Right? It's all still accessible. How is it that you and I can sit here in 2022 with the shitstorm that's going on around us and still have a laugh and still be grateful?
What are you talking
about? Right? End of sermon. Getting off my soapbox.
I've gotten bored of that one 2 weeks within, in the 2 weeks that whatever was supposed to happen. I was like, yeah, really. But yeah, that's a whole different story. What I want to highlight about so much good stuff that you just said is that, because I don't want anybody watching this saying, oh, it's so hard to get from here to there, is that there is no perfection in this process. We all come from different places. That's why I have different women coming on, and hopefully at some point even men coming on, but I'm seeing that it's a lot more women that are taking on this role or being role models. And it's not that they're trying to be role models, they're just taking back their power, and therefore they become role models by default, because you are now liberating others, you're inspiring others to the fact that they can do it too. But the point is, again, there is no perfection. We all start from different places. Like you said, these 5 women all have different roles on the surface, but it's not about what we do. Again, it's about who we are. And at the end of the day, we have all potential within us. We could be anything. Really, if you went back and you lived in a different country, you could have become a singer. What I mean is that even in the 3D, you could have done so many things. If you could do so many different things, even in the 3D, why would we ever think that in the infinite world of spirituality, your emotions, your mental capabilities, you cannot for some reason? These are silly. Again, we go back to, you start asking questions, you start breaking it down, you realize none of this makes sense. Basically, no one out there is telling us the truth, which we are infinitely powerful individuals. We're not even individuals, we are essence. We're essence embodied here. So all we're doing is we are taking care of our spirituality when we sit down and meditate, or when we go out for a walk in nature, or when we go have a gelato. It doesn't have to look any particular way. And we take care of ourselves even when we take a hot bath, and we do take care of our nervous system. It is all one. The point is, listen to what you need. Listen to your body. For once in your life, don't put yourself second, third, fourth, or whenever there's time for me. There is never going to be time for you. I used to believe this, and I am serious. I used to believe that if I could help somebody and their need was greater than the inconvenience to me, it was worth doing, because all in all, we would come out ahead. The unit would be increased by certain bit, right? Because I'm a very economics, my background is economics, finance. I have a very logical mind sometimes, which hurts me clearly, as the point I'm trying to make. Then I realized it doesn't matter. These people will never stop asking. When they realized that I was always like, no, it makes more sense for you. It didn't matter when my need was greater, because the time that my need has become greater and I've asked these people for help, they're like, oh, I'm sorry. No, I can't do it. I literally had my ex-mother-in-law tell me, I had a 1-month-old baby. I was staying at her house. This is not to throw under the bus. We all have our own understanding of life. So I had moved on from any sort of resentment or anything. These are lessons, right? And that's why I bring it up. And this person said to me, I had cancer. I was still working because I work for myself. So it's not like I had time off, and I had a 1-month-old baby. I remember asking her, is there any way you can keep my child in your room so that at least I'm not waking up all the time? My daughter used to wake up every 45 minutes to be fed. It was terrible. I don't even know how I didn't get in an accident. I didn't sleep for months and months. And she said to me, I'm sorry, I can't, I've raised 3 children, so you should raise your own child. I mean, she didn't have cancer and she wasn't working when she had the 3 children. And she also was married with a husband who was maintaining her. I didn't have any of these things. And this is not to say she's not a one of a kind either. And she's not a bad person. She does a lot of good things for other people. That's why I'm saying I'm not trying to throw her under the bus. I am making an example of, it doesn't matter what you do for others. If you just give, you mentioned this earlier when you say you give so much, your cup becomes empty. The point is to give from the saucer. It was never to give everything out of you. It was to feed yourself so much, with so much nourishment, mental, emotional, physical, that you just have a spilling out of you. You're just abundant in every way. People just want to be around you. That's always been the case. But who's telling you this? Certainly, they're not telling you this in religion. They're telling you the exact opposite. They're not telling you this in the government. Nobody's telling you this. And start questioning them. Why are you and I saying this? Because apparently we're not big shareholders in a pharmaceutical company. I don't know. That might be one of the reasons. But yes, so I want to highlight this because, again, I don't want this to feel, the sovereignty thing may feel overwhelming to some. It's like, what do I need to do? You start where you are and you start listening to yourself, to what you need. If sovereignty means that you don't watch television anymore because from now on, you really don't care about the drama and the theater that's happening out there, that's fantastic. In fact, if everybody did that, this would have been over a long time ago, because everybody would be bored to death like I am. So anyway, it's a different story. Yeah.
I always think that. Imagine if everyone just stopped watching the news right now.
Miracle.
Imagine the feeling in society. I mean, sovereignty. I got rid of my iPhone and I got a Clear phone, which is a fully encrypted phone. Like, that was a choice that I made. But when it comes to our body, people can start really simply with just, you don't have to become a big intense meditator and, radically change the way you live your life. This is about starting to notice how you feel on the inside. And so many people are masterful at ignoring their uncomfortable emotions and repressing them down. And it's almost like that's what we're taught to do, as opposed to the opposite, which is simply to allow it to be felt. So I teach my clients constantly how to be able to go inside, not freak out about what they find in there or and then run back away again, but actually use their emotions as messengers. Because uncomfortable emotions are just a frequency of energy in your body that doesn't match your true divine nature frequency. So it feels off. It's like, okay, I feel resentment. And it's just, we just think of it as an energy that needs to move up and out the body. And people are afraid to do that. And my clients say all the time, I can't afford to lift the can of worms because then I'll erupt. Well, you're erupting on the inside and you're proliferating a harsh impact on your physiology if you don't allow the movement through. So it can be as simple as just letting the feeling of anger, and you know what's going to happen in the next year or so as more and more information comes out. There's going to be a lot of anger and resentment. These feelings of discomfort that you have are as a result of you forgetting who you truly are at a very big spiritual picture level. You have forgotten that you are actually God, and this anger or resentment or negativity is a dirty edge on a mirror that needs rubbing to bring you back into your light. So imagine if everybody, Clea, took self-responsibility and sat quietly in a chair and felt themselves as God and this one that really wants to help. And sitting across the table over there is their angry version, their resentful version. And we get to hold space for that part of ourselves. And we let that anger be expressed whilst we know that we are able to be the one that can hold the anger. And you let that, and you let the body feel it, and you make sound and breath and movement, and you express the anger. You don't take it out there into the world. So many people project this onto their family. You see this when people say, you're not coming to my house because of the choices you're making. That is projection of anger, as opposed to taking full responsibility for it. And I teach my clients, like, you know, sit at your dining table and imagine in this chair over here is the angry one that got rejected by the mother. This one over here is the one that felt X, Y, and have a frigging conversation. Let each of them say what they need to say. And guess what happens? It goes. And you know the answer to this. Guess what replaces it? Lightness, peace. Because you've broken the density from your body, you've broken the contracture so that more light can come through. And we're all hearing about, you know, the light quotient is increasing and there's more photonic light coming onto the planet. Well, you're not going to get a teaspoon of that, my friend, if you are full of bottled emotions, because they are taking up the space that your intuition will come through, that your love will proliferate in. So we've got to manage our nervous system. We've got to start to notice, am I perpetually in fight or flight? Am I disassociating and numbing myself out? You know, these people that say, I don't want to talk about it. No, we don't talk about that here. That's dissociation. And if you grew up with that model in your life, you take that through. And that, you know, that is a really negative pattern to be in. So what I do with people is I teach them, this is how we're going to get your nervous system back. And you used the word resilience earlier. We need to be able to feel the anger, the resentment, but then come back to this safe harbor of centeredness. And that's what I'm talking about when I say I can be with a financial settlement and spending all this money on getting this house sorted. I can be with all of that because I have a reference point to witness it as 3D game playing out. And I am safe and sovereign in the middle of that. And I am, in fact, enacting what I came here to do. And this house is becoming a sacred, beautiful home for the next family coming in. But you can't do any of that if you're a schmozzle on the inside.
Love it. We're going to use that definition. We're going to go with that. No, absolutely. It's about letting go of resistance. And I have gone through exactly the things you said. I've gone through denial, and then I had to deal with the anger that I was pent up, that I thought I didn't have. I thought that I was not like other humans and I was not angry. So all of a sudden it came up when I had cancer, and I spent several months dealing with it. Because I'm like, this is not me. I'm a diplomat. I can ebb and flow. It's all the BS we tell ourselves to numb ourselves out, because we tell ourselves whatever we have to do to keep going when we know we're going in the wrong direction. Yeah. We wouldn't have to convince ourselves, persuade ourselves to do anything, force ourselves to do anything if we were going in a direction of joy, would we? We would be hopping and skipping out of bed if that was the case. How come that's not the case? It's the reason why what we tell children, that's how we break them, and that's how we live broken the rest of our lives, most of us. We say, well, this is how the world is. The world is not fair. You can't be a child lost in your imagination. We got to make money. That's why you got to go to school so you can learn to do this and that. Really? Do you see, again, if we start breaking it down, it doesn't hold up to scrutiny. And I always tell people, it doesn't matter where you start questioning. I don't care if you start questioning GMOs in food. Like, why would a friendly government allow GMOs to foods where food is not good enough before? I don't care where you start. You're always going to end up to the same point, which is where we are. And you and I have done a lot of work for a long time. That's why we're able to have these conversations. So like you said, to be serene, no matter what's happening around us. But it doesn't happen overnight. And don't push yourself to have these high expectations. That was another problem I had. I've always been very competitive. I'm like, if somebody can do this, I can do this. And therefore, I'm just going to solve this in no time. Well, guess what? My dark night of the soul lasted 5 years. But you know what? I had to clear like 40 some years before that of complete crap. So the longer you bottle stuff up, the more it's going to explode. And like you're saying, you open the can of worms. But that's the thing. Air, light will sanitize everything. And we are not perfect. The idea is that we have to be perfect. So we're scared by what we find inside. But we are not that dark. I always tell people, I say, if you haven't killed anybody, you're good. Everything else is in your head, really. Just get it out. Like, what have you done? Really, when you break it down, what have we done that we are such ugly people we can't even look inside? You see how we're all in. The only reason this stuff, this denseness stands is because we never inquire. The moment you start inquiring, you realize, oh, what the hell was I? I look back at myself, I'm like, what? Why would I even do that? That's exactly what happens. But I meant to tell you, our little alarm went off. I want to be respectful of your time. So if you like to give us some parting wisdom or tell us where to find you, and I will put links again below. But if you want to go ahead and tell people where to find you, that would be great.
Okay. So as Clea has said, these changes that we can make for ourselves in managing our nervous system, feeling safer in our own body, it's all about being able to be present and enact what we came here to do, because we all agreed to come here in this body. And anything that doesn't feel good in your body, and it's that simple, anything that doesn't feel good is not supporting what you came here to do. If it feels good, like this bunch of flowers I bought the other day from the markets. I don't normally have flowers. I saw them, I smelt them as I walked past. It felt good. That is me filling my cup in some way. Me turning off my Wi-Fi router at night, that feels good. You find the things that make you feel good, and it can be as simple as that. When you start to find the rubbly stuff and the uncomfortable stuff, it is so simple, my loves. This is a part of you that is still in your energetic field that has not yet received the love it needed. And that's what they mean by inner child work. There are so many versions of you frozen in time that didn't get the love and the acknowledgement. They weren't reminded that, yes, they are God enacting in a human form, and they got frozen in time because their needs weren't met. So that's a really simple concept to start to understand. And once you meet each part of yourself, then you remember who you are. You remember what joy and compassion felt like. And we have all these life events that are trying to remind us of self-love, trying to remind us of compassion. So I am hyper vigilant about helping people to be in their bodies. So in March, which is 3 or so weeks away, I'm starting the Earth Bootcamp, which is live training calls where I actually teach you in the call how to do this stuff. And then you've got this lifelong toolkit. And once you start to support your nervous system, support your emotions, then you can start to become this energetic maven where you can start to allow other dimensional information to come through like Clea does. But you have to get your body ready to be able to do that. So I want to offer this bootcamp experience because Shiz is just going to get realer. The wheels are falling off at such a rate of knots in the world right now that if you are curious about your role and you're starting to question things, you need your body on board to support you to get through this. And there will be other people in your life relying on you to help them feel safe and okay as well. So the invitation is there to come and do these calls and really just remember how freaking powerful you are. This is the stuff they should have taught us in school. What it feels like to be in your power, what it feels like to be in service, what spaciousness feels like. They are the things they have robbed us of because they wanted us to succumb to the many, many ways that they had. So that's what I'm on about. That's what I'm here to do. I've worked with menopausal women, and that's a journey I've been on as well. But right now, this focus is, I want you to stay sane, and I want you to feel safe in your own body, because at the end of the day, all we have is our relationship with ourselves. Every other relationship is under constant threat, where you don't really know what tomorrow brings.
That's
so
beautiful.
that's what it's all about.
100%. Yeah. So please tell us very quickly your channel, where people can find you, just in case they don't have the ability. Sometimes on television, you don't have the ability to check the description box.
Yeah. So my YouTube channel is just under my name, Melissa Turnock. And there is a lot of practical information on there, because I literally want you to watch one of my videos and have an aha moment, and then have something to actually go away and do. So that's what you'll find on my videos. And on my channel, you'll find in all of the descriptions, you'll find the link to the different courses I've created over the years, and there's the urgency of Earth Bootcamp, and really helping people begin to trust their body rather than be in fear of what's going on.
I'm really quite excited about your Earth Bootcamp. As I said, highly, highly recommended. So thank you so much for joining us today. I'd like to thank you all for being here. I hope this was inspirational. It certainly is always inspirational for me to speak with Mel. So I definitely hope you check out her channel, because she's definitely working for the light. And these days, when there is so much going on, we have realized that a lot of people are not quite on the side of the light. I'll leave it at that. So thank you again, Mel, and everybody have a great day. And I hope to see you in the next video.
Yeah, bye.